Let's get straight to Deven Choksey, MD of DRChoksey Finserv. Deven, just talking about one of the brokerages that my colleague was pointing out too, which is CLSA, who put out a note saying demand for CNG vehicles has gone up quite a bit. So companies like Maruti, Tata Motors will be beneficiaries of that. Any thoughts?
Good morning, Sonia. Well, yes, I think the steadier price, I think, on the CNGs and overall, I think the improvement in the demand scenario for the consumer, from the consumer side on the passenger vehicle. Also, importantly, I think this time around, the demand is picking up from other than the urban centers, that is, I think B cities and C cities. That's where we believe that I think the growth is going to be supported from the smaller towns. Given this situation, one would not be completely surprised to find the demand from CNG vehicles. And I think that is where we believe that both Tata Motors and Maruti are well positioned to take the advantage of the situation.
Okay, Tata Motors and Maruti both are, beneficiaries of this up move that you're seeing in demand for CNG vehicles. Got it. Since we're talking about autos, let's complete this discussion. UBS has upgraded Eicher Motors to a buy this morning from a neutral, and they have a big upside in the target price as well. Any thoughts here? Because you're talking about a revival both in terms of domestic demand as well as exports coming back for two-wheelers. Do you like Eicher amongst the lot?
Yes, I think all said and done, I think the new range of vehicles, particularly I think in the higher powered vehicles in the two-wheeler segment, they certainly I think suggest that the growth is basically coming back to them in this category. Bajaj has already demonstrated the significant amount of growth in the higher powered vehicles, and that is where probably even Eicher fits into. I believe that I think both these companies have a relatively larger business to talk about from this particular segment. Importantly, I think the consumer spending power is increasing, and also I think the money is being spent from the smaller towns, as I mentioned earlier, for the four wheelers. I think this is where probably we are likely to see a continued surge in the premium vehicle category, and that's where Eicher Bajaj Auto kind of companies would position themselves. We remain positive on that. At the same time, I think in the commercial vehicle segment too, I believe that I think the larger amount of growth is being experienced. You look at medium commercial vehicles, or also for that matter, heavy commercial vehicles, where the scrappage policy is also playing some role. I believe that I think the most of the commercial vehicle segment companies also having an equally good opportunity going forward. So there is a distinct possibility that I think you can get the re-rating of some of these companies. Already we have seen upside move in Tata Motors. Ashok Leyland and Eicher are languishing at this point of time, and I believe that I think they should be catching up next going forward.
So, Deven, what do you make of this entire PSU rally that we have seen? SBI did very, very well, outperformed some of those private sector banks. Pockets of defense, railways, they did well. From the PSU basket, what do you like?
So, Nigel, I think within the financial space, SBI, of course, I think remains, I think, the top pick. RFC, PSC, I think they are also equally well-positioned companies, having cleaned up their balance sheet and also got significantly large amount of traction due to the new projects that they are funding in. At the same time, I think the balance sheet, I think, has become more strong, I think, going forward because of, as I said, capitalization as well as, I think, clearing of the balance sheet. I believe that I think these finance companies, they remain relatively stronger compared to others. Rest of the places, I think HAL kind of company remains absolutely very strong and convincing, given the kind of order book, given the kind of return on capital employed that they are enjoying, and the sustained earnings that they are producing. I think this one company remains relatively better off compared to others. Rest of the PSUs, I believe that they always hold the potential. The challenge with them is that I think the sustainability of the financial performance. And that's where I think one will have to be extremely selective in buying some of the PSU into the portfolio. So we have a choice limited, I think, out here in buying, I think, selective PSU companies and keep it in the portfolios.
Okay, all right. Deven, what about yesterday's big loser? Everyone's waiting for Tata Sons IPO, but they got, some stake sale in TCS yesterday. And that stock ended with a cut of close around 4% because of that block that took place earlier. What's your view on TCS? Now it dipped below that 4,000 rupee mark.
So maybe I think the headroom was available significantly in case of TCS when the stock was somewhere around 3,000, 3,400 levels. And that's where we were saying that in a full year time, I think the stock could give you 15-20% kind of an appreciation. I guess I think this particular appreciation came in and bit in a hurry. So to a certain extent, I think this is now the profit booking time for the stock. I'm not saying that the fundamentals of the companies are not supporting. I feel that I think the probably headroom as far as appreciation is concerned is already covered in this particular financial year. Most of these large cap companies, they would probably, I think, move up in hurry, and at the same time, I think they're up to cool down also for some time, which is we call it as a distribution. I believe that I think the IT companies are probably finding some sort of distribution profit taking at this point of time. Maybe in a corrected downside, one could possibly once again re-enter into these stocks.
Okay. The other stock I wanted to talk about was HUL and some of these other FMCG names as well, because HUL hit a fresh 52-week low yesterday, and we've seen the kind of underperformance from these FMCG stocks, right? At any point, do these stocks become a buy for you?
Yes, Sonia, I think really important point. This market is actually behaving in a sectorial rotation manner, wherein those stocks which probably I think touch the levels as far as the valuations are concerned, immediately they find the selling attracted, and I think they shift into some other stock. Just while back, I think we were talking about IT companies. I think FMCG companies similarly moved in that direction. Pharma companies also, I think, probably, in my viewpoint, I think have covered the ground already for the current financial year. Maybe I think 3 6 months of waiting in this kind of companies, sideways correction in the price could be a buy opportunity. Not too sure whether you would get, I think, 10-15% lower companies like HUL in the portfolio from current price. But still, I think one can keep an eye on it. I think if market does give correction of that degree, then probably it would be buy opportunity.
Deven, this, as Anuj was also pointing out, there is this brutal sell-off that's happening in the mid and small cap space. Anything that you've identified that you can perhaps buy into that looks attractive after the fall?
So on one side, the weaker hands are exiting and stronger hands are also accumulating. So that is where probably we are seeing a shift happening in the mid-cap baskets. Comparatively, we find ourselves more comfortable buying into auto ancillary space. Some of the companies like Minda Corporation, they have corrected very sharply from the peak it achieved in the recent times, and they are available at I think 15-20% lower to what that peak was. So to a certain extent, I think this is a good opportunity I think to buy into names like Mindas. Similarly, I think we also find that I think sharper correction in some of the ER&D companies, particularly in the mid-cap IT space. So they are not strictly very mid-cap these days. But the fact remains that I think these companies are offering good amount of opportunity given the kind of niche that they're enjoying in the business and the customers. I believe that I think likes of ITTS, likes of Science Technology, they could be, I think, suggesting a good buy opportunity going forward if the market gives something correction of some degree in these stocks.
Okay, Deven, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much for joining us and running us through what you're making of various stocks and sectors.